Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of the Chicago Techies podcast, a podcast focused on highlighting the voices of Chicago Techies and their experiences. This season, we'll be focusing on students looking to enter or entering the Chicago Tech community. I'm your host, Ceci F.B. Thank you for joining us. On today's episode, I am joined by Zhang, a senior at the University of Chicago, majoring in psychology and economics. Hi, Yuyang. It's so nice to meet you, and thank you so much for responding to a stranger's LinkedIn message to chat with you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me in this week's episode of the Chicago Techies podcast. I've been a little quiet in the last month just because my lab has gotten super busy, but I'm happy to be back and to be talking to you for this special episode because there's a lot of new stuff that I'm also that I'm learning about you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so why don't we just hop right in? Like, why don't you state your name, like your pronouns, where you're from, and your current role?
I am Yuyang Zhang. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently an undergrad student at the University of Chicago and also co-founder of Baryl. I am originally from Beijing, but I've actually been to school in the US for like the past over 10 years.
Yeah, nice. Well, were you also in high school in the US?
Yes, I was. Also like all middle school and part of elementary school.
Oh, wow. Okay. I actually studied in Mexico up until 6th grade. And then I moved here and I started in 7th, 8th grade, and then all of high school and all of college. But so what high school did you go to?
I actually went to Loomis Chaffee. It's a boarding school in Connecticut.
Oh, okay. How was that?
No, that was definitely a new experience because before that I was in public schools for elementary school and middle school. And I moved around quite a bit. So I went to elementary school in New York and then middle school in Chicago and then moving to Connecticut. So it was just like a new environment and just like geographically and in terms of just overall experience.
Yeah. Was it because of your parents, like the whole moving, or what was it?
Yeah, my parents' job.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like usually when a lot of kids move too is because they're military people, but that makes sense. Okay, so when you were, I want to start kind of like with your high school experience. So like, obviously you were in Connecticut, but as soon as you went to high school, did you already know or have an idea of what you wanted to do, like what you wanted to study, or not yet?
I think in high school, definitely not yet. I think that's pretty early on to like really figure out what I want to do in life. And still now, I don't think what I really want to do with my entire life. That's a very big question I'll continue to think about. But I knew senior year of high school that I wanted to study psychology. So when I was applying to colleges, I applied to everywhere as a psychology major, and I still am. I am a double major right now in psychology and business economics. And that just stems from my interest in people, which I think that came out from pretty early on. Like I was pretty interested in people, having deeper conversations, having one-on-one conversations, learning about different personality types, and like really reflecting on myself as well. That was something that started since high school, and it's a pretty important part of who I am.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. That's a really well thought out like decision that you came to, because when I remember my high school experience, I also wanted to become a high school psychology major. And that was my senior year because I just loved my psychology teacher and I loved her classes and I loved the way that she made us think and, just explore our mind and understand the way that we're behaving. And I did go into college, as a psych major and then change my major like 3 times. But that's just speaks to like me. I fell in love with so many different things while I was in college that I still didn't even know that if I was in the right path, because I switched my major 3 times. And I feel like now after, going through college and in my career, I shifted my career too. I transitioned to tech outside of education. So I feel like part of me will always also question like, why do we have to limit ourselves to one thing? Why do we have to limit ourselves to studying one thing? But so I appreciate where you're coming from that perspective. Now, so you are, you're thinking of, you already obviously decided to choose your major senior year. So did you already also knew where you wanted to go to school, or how was your where did you apply to?
Yeah, I applied to quite a lot of colleges because I am actually an international student. So I think international students tend to apply to a few more just, to be safe that we get into college. But this was more of like the decisions of the schools. It was like obviously a lot of my idea, my parents, and also college counselors. So like collective decisions.
Yeah.
And also definitely looking at programs that have more varieties or like majors that I would like. So knowing psychology, but also I've actually also had an interest in entrepreneurship pretty early on. Never really executed it as in like starting a startup during high school, but that was just like always a field or like, that did intrigue me. And I think overall business is also just like an integral part of society that's also in every single facet. So somewhere, I guess like I was also thinking about, okay, so like which schools would have a lot of opportunities related to these two disciplines. And yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I ever wondered like what it would be having a business in high school. I think we were, I just was so different, as such a different kid. I was involved in sports, and sports were my life. I really just wanted to see where I could do sports. Like it was nothing related to be, I didn't know. I wasn't exposed to the business environment, or even just the entrepreneurship environments, or anything related to tech. So I love hearing other perspectives, because just everybody's so different, and everybody grew up with different ideas. And we're going to get to it, but I love that you're already kind of like hinting, entrepreneurship and having a business. And so this is going to be exciting. So now during your time in college, let's go back to your first year. I know that currently is this your third year currently?
I am a senior is my fourth.
You're a senior. Okay. So you're not too long ago, you were a freshman. What was going through your head when you were going to start college? Were you nervous? Were you excited to start your journey into what your next step, next phase of your life would be?
I think there was definitely like nervous excitement, as I'm pretty sure a lot of other just like freshmen and first years felt when they first came into college. Exciting that there's suddenly a lot of freedom, but also I think a lot of people's first year was pretty chaotic in a way that's just like suddenly like there's career pressures. There's like, I guess like adjusting socially. There's a lot of adjustment just overall. I mean, for me, I went to boarding school, so at least like I knew I could like live independently, but that was also like a huge adjustment for a lot of other people. So in a way, there was a very steep learning curve.
Yeah, I bet. And I mean, I'm sure that helped a little bit, right? Like being in a boarding school and kind of like already becoming independent. So now with college, I think, you said it really well. There's a lot of pressures that kind of come to us, right? To our attention. Now, and mentorship is a big thing when you are in starting to start your career. Like obviously at schools, usually we have like career services, or even just professors that are like super helpful when it comes to influencing our decisions. Now, have you had access to mentorship in the last, few years in school?
Yes, for sure. So as you said, there's like definitely structured ones like the career advancement office at U Chicago. And also professors who, like, if you build the relationship with the professor, like go to office hours, the professor will know you. But a lot of it is also just like when I was like an underclassman, right? Like reaching out to upperclassmen, or upperclassmen even reaching out to you. So more of like informal mentorship. That's definitely a big part. I would say mainly those, and also alum. Definitely a lot of alum who also come back to campus or to talk, or you're in different school organizations, and then that's how you tap into the network of alum. So there's a lot of opportunities as you engage in different organizations on campus to be connected with more people and establish these informal mentorships.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I hardly ever think about alums, being able to guide you, especially if you're already thinking of going those certain same paths as they did and whatnot, and what they experienced. And so that's really smart. Now, as far as groups or student associations, have you joined any student groups that have, catch your eye for any further development where they may have opportunities for you and whatnot? Have you taken advantage of any student organizations or associations?
Yes, for sure. And a lot of different ones. And I think the cool thing is like you can sign up for list hosts to a lot of different organizations, and we call them like RSOs at U Chicago. And some of them you probably don't have enough time to engage in everything, but just joining this list host, you sort of know like what's happening, and you can like selectively choose to attend events. But the organizations that I actually have been dedicating a lot of time, I am in Alpha Kappa Psi, which is a business fraternity at U Chicago. Oh, it is like national, and we have a U Chicago chapter. I am currently VP membership in the organization, so this is definitely one of the organizations on campus I've contributed the most time to. And I actually also worked at Career Advancement as a career peer advisor. So that's like helping. That's like actually I did that since second year of college, and that's where I took more of like the mentor role to guide a lot of just like younger students or just like other students who need help with like applying to jobs and stuff. And another community is the Polsky Center. I was a small business growth consultant for local small businesses, and there was this like small business growth program that I was a part of. So I would say these three are pretty big parts, like experiences that I've had in my college career. Obviously, like before I started my own startup.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. That's awesome. And I mean, how did you get involved with the Polsky Center and like in those organizations? Is that organization external to University of Chicago?
These organizations are all mainly for Chicago students, but for example, the Polsky, it's basically like a consulting program for local small businesses. So we were in teams of just like U Chicago undergrads with Chicago Booth business, like MBA students, and also just other like graduate school students, like part of U Chicago, whether that's the law school, Harris, and stuff like that.
Got it. I'm loving this like different perspective that you're bringing, because you also have done internships, right? Like besides your being a co-founder, you have done before an internship, or how did you? I feel like you have gained a lot of different experience from your personal experience, but also like from all of these resources inside of the University of Chicago with the Polsky Center. Now, even though you are a co-founder and you're starting to bring this new project into life, like have you also been like, maybe I should also do the things that I quote unquote I'm supposed to do, like an internship, and maybe like figure out my next step rather than, or maybe not, maybe you're just like, actually this is what I'm going to do. I'm a co-founder, or how are you navigating that experience overall? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's two-sided. So for one, I have done internships like since my first year of college, like the summer after first year. And I think that is like pretty standard. I've worked on more like finance related roles, as well as like just like consulting related, as well as product marketing, product management kind of roles. And that's also in a way, I did gain a lot of experience in different fields, which ultimately I think worked out very well, because now founding a startup, you sort of need to wear all hats at the same time, from marketing, from product, right, to like making sure like minimal accounting to make, like as of right now, to make sure the company is like financially okay, and then thinking about revenue models, all of this. So in a way, yes, I did go through like, recruiting processes to secure internships. And I think the second part of your question actually taps into like, I guess in a way, the pressures, right? In a way, will we like to use like mainstream to go for mainstream jobs or roles?
Yeah.
And I definitely admit that there is pressure, and I think that's pressure that everyone feels. But over quarantine, I did get a lot of time to reflect on what I really want to do. And I think overall, a big growth point for me throughout quarantine is being more in touch with what I want and what I like. And that automatically allowed me to filter out a lot of industries that I've had exposure to that I know I don't want to dedicate years of my life to. And that also made me realize I would like to say I do like exploring a lot of things. I am not the most risk-seeking person, but I do like to explore and try new things. And entrepreneurship is something that I've been interested in since high school. Yeah. But in fact, after I came to college, I think the thought of entrepreneurship almost disappeared for like 2 to 3 years. I just like didn't really pop back into my head until I like calmed down a bit more and then thought more about it and then realized, wait a second, I've been interested in this. I haven't had the chance to tap into it. Now there's this opportunity. We have like, I have we have co-founders, we have a team with me. This is a good opportunity and we have a good idea, right? Like the pieces are there. We just got to execute. So I think the pressure was there. And sometimes there is still the pressure about like, oh, what other people are doing, what is like what we're supposed to do. But I think I've matured in a way that I know that's not what I'm supposed to do. There's no rules, no guidelines that we must follow. So having that mindset now allows me to not be influenced by those external pressures because I know what I want to do, and having this security internally, having this self-confidence is very important.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I 100 wholeheartedly % agree. I feel like we should be able to do the things that we want to do, and not just fall into molds, right? Like of what we're expected to be doing, or the rules that we're expected to follow. But so I imagine that sometimes that could be challenging, and obviously, like in some ways, a little risky, but it's entrepreneurship. That's what it's all about. So I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that you're anticipating in this transition as you've finish school and you transition to be a co-founder full time?
There's definitely a lot of challenges. I would say the biggest challenge is managing priorities and optimizing time. Because in school, there's like, you have to go to class, there's like homework. So in a way, there is a slightly bit more structure, but working on a startup, you have like all the time in the world. You have so many things to do, but then like, how are you going to prioritize these things? How are you going to like not waste time? And that places more responsibility on myself and my team to manage our time and energy and resources and try to optimize as much as we can. And that comes from like identifying and knowing what to focus on. What are the most important initiatives that we should dedicate to like grow Baryl, and really then allocate enough time on those initiatives. So I would say prioritization is going to be a big challenge, and there are a lot of strategy and thinking involved in that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned having your own business, right? You have your own little startup, I should say. How did you get started with that? Like, I am very curious about your experience, being a co-founder and also a full-time student. So how are you managing?
Oh, yes. Okay, I can start off with more of how, like, what sparked my interest in entrepreneurship, which is, like, for example, I think my role in Polsky at the Polsky Center was a pretty important factor, because I was like, had like a external third party looking at issues, consulting for startups and small businesses. So now building a startup myself, I'm basically now on the other side of the table, in a way, like a in-house growth strategist for my startup, which is called Baryl. And as like, like I've like lived in many places, like I grew up moving around a lot, which also is a reason why I actually do love traveling. So Baryl is actually a travel tech startup, which really aligns with my professional interests just in business, tapping into entrepreneurship, as well as my personal hobbies, was just like traveling around the world.
So you mentioned Baryl, your startup. Why don't you tell us more about Baryl? What is Baryl?
So Baryl, spelled Baryl, is a travel tech startup that helps travelers create personalized itineraries within minutes. So many of us probably had experiences planning trips for hours and ultimately coming up with a plan that we're not too satisfied with. But with Baryl's itinerary planning tool, we are taking personalization to a new level that the travel industry has never seen before. All you have to do is tell us where you want to go, answer a few quick questions about your travel preferences, and we'll be able to create itineraries made especially for you. We're definitely gaining a lot of traction, and we know that's the beginning because we eventually want to expand beyond just Gen Zs and millennials. But feel free to check it out on our website. We are we're serving a lot of customers, especially as holiday season is coming up. If like anyone wants to plan their trip, definitely check out Baryl. But we will also be launching our completely automated product at the end of this year or early next year. So that is in the next step in our product development stage. And that will be a very exciting times as more people come on our website and try out our automatic tool.
How did the name Baryl come about?
That is an interesting question. I think we were, like my co-founder and I, like the reasoning behind it is more we were trying to think of a word that's like easy to say, that can be caught on pretty easily. So, when people say, let's Lyft somewhere, let's Uber somewhere, let's Baryl it. That's kind of, we were trying to find a word that's not like already overused, and it would sort of like make sense verbally when you just like colloquially, when you just say it.
So we've heard the company goals, right, for Baryl. Now I'm curious about your personal goals.
My personal goals that I've been guided by and I will be sticking to, and hopefully I will throughout my life, is to, as much as I can, gain life experiences. And that fundamentally is also why I'm tapping into founding a startup, tapping into entrepreneurship, because this is honestly an experience that the majority of people won't get to have. But it's such an exciting space once you tap into it. And that is not just entrepreneurship. That's so many different industries or different roles or different careers in life. And there's so much I could tap into and try out. And honestly, I also know that I will be like going back to grad school, whether that's law school or MBA or etc., because I know that there's so much more knowledge out there that I haven't had exposure to and I would want to learn. Another goal is I do want to travel to every single country/region around the world in my lifetime. And actually every time I travel, I get to learn a lot from immersing in the local experience. I'm definitely more of like a, like exploring the hidden gems, talking with the locals kind of traveler. Though I also do love cities. I also do love national parks. All of them definitely mean different things to me and allows me to reflect a lot and brings me a lot of calmness.
Yeah, I also love what you said about speaking to locals. I think that's one of the things that I also love to do. When, I will give, itineraries a try, but for the most part, I always kind of like go where people don't know, like the spots, because we speak to locals. So if I go, for instance, I went to Machu Picchu, right, in Peru. And obviously there's like, you do get an itinerary because there are certain things that are for instance, like for the train schedules and things like that to get to Machu Picchu is like a whole adventure, and that you do need something to guide you. But I love having also that local experience where you talk to someone and they recommend you the places that you should go that are not necessarily like the hot one that are 5-star reviewed, and that's also one thing that I love to do, trying new things and that are not necessarily like fitting on an itinerary, but what a local is telling me to do.
And that is actually honestly what Baryl tries to do. We personalize and we recommend hidden gems. And that stems from like traveling really means a lot to me. Is like travel has always been something special to me personally, and Baryl especially tries to make the travel planning process very easy and recommend authentic local hidden gems and recommendations, whether that's places to eat or just like street foods. Like we take all of that into consideration to bring more eye-opening travel experiences to everyday travelers. I am always inspired by the people I meet and my travel experiences, and I want to bring that experience to more people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And digital access. I mean, everything is, I do everything on my phone now. Like, my flights on the phone, my Airbnbs on the phone. Everything is on the phone. So I feel like, this is definitely you have the demographic of people that are going to be interested in a product like this. That's definitely, I'm excited to see what else you guys come up with. Yeah, I'm curious to learn a little bit more about as you started this company with your co-founder from the ground, like what are some of the values that you have in mind, to making sure that your organization is a great company to work for, and people that can see what are some of your values, in general that you want to convey to others.
Yes. So in terms of our business, like our mission is to make travel planning quick, easy, and personalized. That is our mission. In terms of our team, how we organize, we definitely value open communication. Transparency is definitely something we care a lot about. So from the start, we're building a very transparent culture within the team. And so that's one part. And second, every Sunday, we dedicate at least 30 minutes to just like reflect on the past week and also do goal setting. That is also something we care a lot about, being introspective and being reflective. That's something I do myself too, reflect on how I've led the team this past week and then how I want to improve going forward. And that's also something we do as a team together.
Yeah, no, that's great. I feel like this new generation that, we're seeing of our, our Gen Z and millennials, I feel like we are more interested in being humans first, in a sense. Mm-hmm. Mental health is one of our biggest drivers, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of that. I feel like these new companies that are coming up because of our generation, I feel like that's going to be the ones to watch. That's going to be the ones that are going to change, culture and whatnot, like the different X, Y, and Z's of culture, because there is so many bro companies out there that it's refreshing to see women leaders that are, making changes in the way that we lead. I think that's super, super cool to see. Now for Baryl, do you have an app, or is it a web app right now? Do you have a website that we can look at too?
Yes, for sure. We are going to start off as a web platform, but we will definitely expand into app later on. So you guys can check us out at www.baryl.io. And our Instagram is also very, very active. Our handle is at Baryl Trips. We recommend a lot of hidden gems around Chicago, especially. So anyone coming to Chicago or in Chicago, that will be for you. And we also have a newsletter that gives even more recommendations on just like different hidden gems, cool cafes, cool events that's going on in Chicago. So I would definitely recommend checking those out. But of course, Baryl is also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and and TikTok.
Yeah, of course, TikTok. That's the new application that is the It app, because I spend too much time in there. Well, no, I truly appreciate you sharing more about the company and about yourself and your experience. For anyone that may want to personally connect with you, are you open to any either LinkedIn or in social media connections?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, people will be able to find me on LinkedIn, and or my email is Yuyang at Baryl.io, Yuyang@Baryl.io.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm actually going to post everything on the show notes, so feel free to send me those links so that people don't think they missed it. So they don't have to go back and forth, right? So I'll put everything in the show notes, and let's check out Baryl, guys. Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate your time and getting to know more about you and Baryl, for sure.
Thank you, Ceci.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Chicago Techies podcast. If you enjoyed listening, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review on iTunes. Let's continue the conversation on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us at Chicago Techies on all social media channels. Thank you again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.